Hola, muy buenos días y bienvenidos a esta sesión. Mi nombre es Carolina Leguizamón y hago parte del programa de Consejería Académica y Relaciones Internacionales de Colfuturo y nos acompaña Karen Boland de Georgetown University Law Center. Me gustaría resaltar que hasta la convocatoria de este año han sido seleccionadas 97 personas con financiación del programa Crédito Beca de Colfuturo para realizar sus estudios en Georgetown University Law Center y más específicamente este año fueron seleccionadas 7 personas en nuestra convocatoria 2021. También tenemos un convenio que otorga un descuento del 33% en el valor de la matrícula para máximo 7 beneficiados, de nuevo, del programa Crédito Beca de Colfuturo, admitidos en los programas de LLM. Entonces, es por estas razones que hemos invitado a este espacio a Karen en representación de la universidad para que nos pueda brindar información acerca de cómo es el proceso de postulación, qué oferta académica hay en cuanto a posgrados, de pronto becas o opciones de financiación y resolver todas las dudas que puedan tener para su proceso de postulación si están planeando un posgrado. Entonces, pueden dejar sus preguntas en el chat y al final vamos a tener un espacio de Q&A para responderlas. También me gustaría recordarles que esta sesión hace parte de una serie de eventos que hemos tenido durante el mes de agosto, de lunes a viernes a las 10 de la mañana, con diferentes universidades invitadas alrededor del mundo que tienen convenio con Futuro. So, Karen, thank you so much for joining this session. It's a pleasure to have you here, and you can start your presentation.
Thank you very much. And I am happy to be here. And this is my first information session of the year for future students, because for us in the universities, this is our new year. We are just welcoming the students who will be studying in this academic year. And now that they are safely here, it's our time to start speaking to future students again. So I'm really happy to have my first meeting of the year be together with Colfuturo and to meet all of you who are attending the session today. We are really happy to have every year a number of students from Colombia studying in our LLM program. And so we hope that you will think about this as something for your future. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes, and then if you have some questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But I'm going to talk a little bit in general about some things to think about if you are considering studying in the United States. And then I'll speak specifically about the programs that we offer at Georgetown, as well as opportunities for scholarships and other kinds of financing. So I think you have come to this session because you are already thinking about doing an LLM. And some of those reasons may be very obvious to you. You might have been working for a few years already, or you've been doing internships during your law studies, and you have some general experience in law, but you would like to develop a specialization, perhaps in international business or tax law or environmental law, something like this. Or maybe you just want to add something to your resume. You want to show that you've taken that extra step to study abroad and to become more educated as you move along your career path as a lawyer. Maybe you've been working for several years in a particular area and you feel it's time for a change and you want to get some education in a new area of law. Or maybe you just want to try something different. You studied in Colombia for a number of years. You're very familiar with your own legal system, but you want to try something new and broaden your horizons and get a new experience. You have the option of doing that by going anywhere in the world. You might study for your master's degree in Spain or in the Netherlands or Australia, but you may also be considering the United States. So some of the specific reasons for choosing the United States, one is that the practice of law when it becomes international, often involves US law. So especially given the proximity of the United States and Colombia, there will be business between those two countries, between private companies that want to invest in Colombia, between Colombian companies that want to do business with US entities, and US law will be a factor in those relationships. So having the opportunity to build up your background and your understanding of the US legal system can be really helpful in your practice. A lot of times, US law has been used as a model for other countries when they're developing their laws in a particular area, like antitrust or compliance or different kinds of corporate governance, things like that. Maybe there sometimes have been a good example or other times not a good example. But by studying US law, you have a better sense of where those models have come from. Practicing your English is also a big reason to do an LLM in the United States. So you, even people who speak English very fluently, and even American students who study law, need to learn a new way of using English, specifically in a legal context. And that involves not only learning new words and new vocabulary, but getting to understand the way that US lawyers communicate and use language. How do they structure their arguments? How do they write? They have a very specific way of doing it and specific expectations. So doing an LLM in the United States lets you understand that better and better be able to understand US lawyers that you'll be interacting with in the future. The opportunity to specialize, of course, that I already mentioned. And many people are interested in taking the New York bar exam. So as a Colombian lawyer, if you combine your first degree in law from Colombia with an LLM degree, where you take certain classes in American law, you can qualify to take the New York bar exam, which is just another added credential that you can gain through an LLM in the US. You also can become eligible to spend a year working in the United States if you come on an F1 student visa. It's called OPT, Optional Practical Training. So we have a number of students every year who stay after the LLM to work in the legal field in the United States. And my last bullet point is the most unspecific, but possibly one of the most important reasons to do an LLM. And I don't think it's something that people always think about when they are making their lists and their pros and cons for why to do an LLM. That is really just the intangible personal and professional benefits that you gain from taking the time, making the effort to put yourself into a new environment, to meet new people from around the world who are going to become part of your professional network, exposing yourself to uncomfortable situations, thinking in new ways. You really will develop new ways to think about problems, to think about the world, and a network of people that you'll be able to call upon all around the world as you grow as a lawyer or in whatever field of work you choose. So if you've done an LLM in the US and in the future you are in Colombia and you are starting up business with somebody in Japan, you will probably have a classmate from there, or somebody from France, or somebody from Australia, or from South Africa. It could be anywhere in the world. And the same will be true for those folks. If they need a contact in Colombia, they will have you. Personally, of course, you make friends going through such an experience, people that stay with you as friends for the rest of your life. And that's also something I think that's one of the biggest benefits that students take home from an LLM program. When should you do an LLM? So not everyone has the same career path in mind. So I think it depends mostly on your personal circumstances. It also depends on what tends to be the tradition in your country or in the type of work that you do. So for us, I think we find usually our students from Colombia have had some work experience before doing the LLM in between their first degree in law and going out to do the LLM, but that's not always the case. Maybe that won't work for you. You need to do it right away. because you know you're going to be starting a job or starting a family or any number of things. So, you know, I think at different points in your career, the LLM may have a different kind of meaning, but whenever you do it, it will always be something that adds to your career, adds to your understanding, and really broadens your opportunities. If you decide you do want to do an LLM in the United States, what do you do? First of all, it's great that you're here because you're getting some advice about the application process. For most LLM programs in the United States, the application process begins the fall before you would start the program. So for us, we will be opening our application in October for people who want to begin the program next fall, next September. And each school may have a slightly different timeline. So I do suggest that you go to their websites and check the deadlines carefully so that you don't miss them. We have what we call a rolling admissions process. So we open the application in October and we really keep it open throughout the time between now and even next summer. The earlier you apply, the sooner you will get a decision. But we keep it open until our class is full. That may not be the case with all schools. Some have a very hard deadline, and if you miss it, you may have to wait until next year. So just be sure that you read that information. Most of us are using the online application through the LSAC, lsac.org. You can go online and create an account there, and then you would send all of your information through the LSAC system, which will then distribute it out to the different schools where you wish to apply. So this can save you time and money if you're applying to more than one school, because you only have to send in your documents once, and you can fill out most of your information online through the LSAC application. We have also an optional paper application if you don't want to apply through LSAC that you can download and fill out and send to us by email or by mail. And other schools may have that as well. But if you are applying to more than one school, I recommend the LSAC approach. The required materials for your application will be fairly standard from one school to another. So for us, we require the application form. There's an application fee that most schools will require. Excuse me. You'll need to send official copies from your university of your transcripts and your diploma if that's where your degree name and conferral date is listed. So those should be sent directly from the school and should have an official English translation with them as well. We require the TOEFL or the IELTS test. Most schools will require that for your English proficiency. And for us, we look for a minimum score of 100 on the TOEFL or 7.5 on the IELTS. So that's something you want to plan ahead for. Make sure that you're prepared to take that test when the time comes. We ask for 2 letters of recommendation. Other schools may have a different number, but your letters of recommendation should be from either professors or supervisors at work or anybody who's in a position to speak fairly specifically based on their personal experience with you about your readiness for an LLM or your abilities as a lawyer or a student. Then the part of the application that most students are worried about is the personal statement. And they don't know how to write that, or they worry whether they will say the right thing or it's not the right length. So in general, you know, I would say first you need to read the question given by the school. Maybe they ask you to write about something very specific. For us, we ask you to write about why you're interested in doing the LLM. And it's really your opportunity to state things for the admissions committee that they can't already see in other parts of your application. So we can already see your resume because we ask for a resume. We can see your transcripts. So we know some of the basic outlines of your education and your work experience. So you don't need to list that again in your personal statement, but rather, you know, how have your experiences contributed to your decision to pursue an LLM? why do you like the law, those kinds of things. And just, I think, you don't need to try to be shocking or funny or stand out in any way that's not authentically you. I think the best personal statements are the ones where the person is using their own voice and just telling the admissions committee the things that you think it would be helpful for them to know as they make a decision on your application. I know that's not very specific advice, but we don't want every personal statement to be the same. It's really up to you the way that you wish to write it. There's lots of LLM programs out there in the United States. So you're going to want to think about things like, is it in a city? Is it in a smaller town? Which feels better to you? How big is the program? Do you want one that only has a few LLM students, or do you want one with people from more parts of the world? Do they have the kind of classes that you want? If you want to study environmental law, make sure they have enough of those classes before you go there. And do they have the depth and the amount of specialization that you might want in a particular area? Do they let you branch out and take things across different specializations if that's your interest? And the reputation of the program. So some people feel more importantly about the reputation than others. There are lots of good programs out there, some more famous than others. But another good way is to also speak to people who have graduated from the program and learn about their experience. We know the cost of doing an LLM in the US is high. It's probably the most expensive country in the world when it comes to higher education, unfortunately. So if you do want to do an LLM, here you are, coming through the Colfuturo program to learn about LLMs. And we do have, as was mentioned, partnership with Colfuturo at Georgetown. And we provide a partial merit scholarship to students who are selected to also receive assistance from Colfuturo, up to 3 students per year, although sometimes we end up with more students. And that is a good thing as well, because we're very happy to have Colombian lawyers come to our program. There are other sources of funding out there. I know that Education USA does work in Colombia, so they're a good resource to find out about other kinds of opportunities. There may be private foundations based on an area of interest that you have, but also a lot of schools have their own internal scholarships. I'll tell you more about that shortly. But in the application process, it's never a problem for you to ask the school directly what their scholarships are and whether you can be considered. So the LM is expensive. It's an investment. It will pay off over time, but it is a big investment at the beginning. So, I don't think you think of it as something that you are going to get back money-wise in 1 year or something like that. So you want to prepare for it financially, and then realize that some of the benefits you get are really they bring a lot to your career that will help you over time. So just quickly, a little bit about Georgetown, because I'm getting to my 20 minutes. We are located in Washington, D.C., which is a great place to study law because it's really our local industry. We are located right in the middle of where laws are being debated and written and enforced on a daily basis. This means that our professors are often called upon to give their expert advice. I hear them quite regularly on the radio. I heard one yesterday, actually, talking about current events. Our students can get out into the legal community in Washington doing externships as part of their LLM program and working in law firms, government agencies, non-governmental organizations, international organizations here in Washington. And people come to the law school too to speak to our students. They may be top level officials in the US government or from around the world. And really, it's a place, Georgetown law is well known. And so therefore it's a place where important people choose to visit and speak to our students. We also have a lot of different options for degree programs. So we have some that are very flexible and allow you to choose from a wide variety of classes, including our general LLM, which is our most flexible of all, and it's actually our most popular LLM because it allows the greatest deal of flexibility. But we also have our international legal studies, which gives you a lot of choice between a long list of classes having to do with international law, but also has space for other areas as well. Same with international business and economic law, very flexible, but with a bit more focus on international business and private transactional law that crosses borders. Our more specialized programs are our environmental and energy law program, our national and global health law, our national security program, our tax LLM, which is one of the top tax programs in the US, and our newest degree in technology law and policy. We also have the Master of International Affairs LLM with Sciences Po in Paris. So that's a unique dual degree program where students spend the first year in Paris and the second year in LLM at Georgetown. And at the end of 2 years, you get both degrees, which would normally take 3 years if you did them separately. Very similar with the MBA or MIM LLM that we have with HEC Business School in Paris. First year there, second year here, 2 degrees at the end. Our Global Health Law and Governance program is with the Graduate Institute in Geneva, Switzerland. That's a 1-year joint degree program, so 1 semester here and 1 semester in Geneva. And then our 2-year LLM with a certificate in legal English is designed for students who want to spend extra time when they first get here, really developing their abilities in English and in legal English. So the first year curriculum focuses very heavily on developing reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills in English in a legal context. And in the second year, students finish the requirements of their LLM degree. Another way you can specialize is by combining a certificate with your LLM. So that's quite common. We have certificates in human rights law, international arbitration and dispute resolution, WTO and trade law, international taxation. We have a couple of health law certificates. So this is like kind of a minor within the major of your LLM. I'm going to skip that. One thing you can count on at Georgetown is some really interesting classes that give hands-on opportunities within the classroom. So not just a professor just talking all the time, but really, doing things like computer programming or working together with technology students at MIT to develop laws related to apps or cutting edge technology issues, environmental lawyering, teaching you how to get out there and practice environmental law in the US. All of these types of things are available to our students. And finally, scholarships. So we have already talked about our CoFuturo partnership, but we also have a graduate tax scholars program that provides up to a full tuition scholarship for students who are advanced in the area of tax law. We have our international arbitration scholars, which provides between half and full tuition for a few students each year who are highly skilled in the area of international arbitration. We have partial to full scholarships for our environmental law and global health programs as well. And then we have general merit-based scholarships, which are partial tuition awards that we give out to many students just on the basis of the strength of their application materials. We have students every year from about 70 countries around the world. We have alumni all over the world. That's that network I was telling you about. People will always be ready to connect with you. And we have law alumni boards, graduates from our programs who tell us, what do we need to know about the practice of law in Columbia right now? What does a Colombian lawyer need to learn when they come to Georgetown if they're going to work as an international lawyer, or if they're going to just be a better lawyer whose practice is mainly limited to being within Columbia? Either way, our Latin American, our Asian, our European law alumni really help us be able to give the students what they need to succeed at home. So you can feel free to take down this contact information and follow up with questions at any time. I'll be happy, or my colleagues will be happy to answer them. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have right now.
All right. Thank you so much for the information. Very useful for all the people interested in starting their degree in Georgetown University Law Center. So the first question is from Omar. He's asking, with the student visa permit, is it possible to work?
So if you are, during the year when you're a student, you are allowed to work up to 20 hours a week in an on-campus job, but you can't work like out in the, in a law firm or something like that. So you do have some opportunity for on-campus work.
Thank you. And could you please remind us what's the English test requirement in order to apply? And also, if it is possible, is it possible to have for example, a conditional admission while you meet the English criteria?
Good question. So we look for 100 points on the TOEFL test. We don't do conditional admissions, so we want to wait until we have all of the necessary information before we look at an application and make a decision on it. So if you have sent everything in and your English score is not yet available, we will wait until you give us the English score. If you have sent everything and your English score is included, but it's too low, sometimes we may write back and say, I'm sorry, your application looks good, but we can't admit you because your English score was too low. Or you could write to us and say, I've sent in my English score. I know it's low. Please don't make a decision until I send you a new updated score, and I'm going to take the test again. Then we'll just wait until we get the higher score.
All right. Thank you. Diana is asking, what's the difference between specialization and a specialization course?
So that's a good question. So the way we do it at Georgetown, which could be different at other schools, is that we have some degrees like specialized LLM degrees, say our Taxation LLM. And in the Taxation LLM, you have to take total number of credits, where I think the total number of credits can be up to 26, 13 in each semester, but you have to take at least 16 of those credits if you're an international student in the tax law area. And then the rest of the credits can be other kinds of classes. So that's how most of our specialized degrees are, that you have the more than half of your credits must be focused on the specialized area. In the certificates of specialization, which you can combine with an LLM, for example, you could do international legal studies, where you have to take about half of your credits in international legal studies, plus a certificate in international arbitration and dispute resolution. For the certificate, you need 10 credits in arbitration and dispute resolution classes, and those also count as part of your overall LLM. So the certificate means that you've taken a lot of classes in those areas, but not as many as if your degree name was specialized. You still could take all of your classes related to arbitration if you want, but you would still just get the certificate. I hope that makes sense. It's a little confusing.
Yes, it was very clear. Thank you so much. Alexandra is asking, well, she's telling us, could you please give us more information about the tuition fee?
Sure. So the tuition fee at Georgetown is about $70,000 per year. This is pretty typical, I think, of many of the LLM programs that people are looking at.
And Maria Juliana is asking, what's the best moment to apply for a scholarship? before or after applying to the university?
I think that depends on what kind of scholarship and what school you're applying to. So I don't know what the Col Futuro timeline is. Maybe you can explain that to the students, but some places like Fulbright, for example, you need to apply to that scholarship before you apply for the LLM program. If you're talking about internal scholarships offered by the school, usually that would be at the same time as your application that you would make your interest known in those scholarships.
All right. And about Col Futuro, you will be able to apply to Col Futuro if you are admitted to the university, or if you are not admitted to the university, or if you are in the process of admission. So we are very flexible regarding the admission. So you can send us the admission letter after you have been selected by Col Futuro Crédito Beca program. And Diana, this is a very good question. She's asking is it possible to apply to a LLM program without the diploma in law? If your degree is in a different area.
Georgetown, no. For Georgetown's LLM program, you must have a law degree. So if you're in the last year of your law degree and you haven't yet received your degree, you can apply as long as you're going to finish the degree before. But if you are from a different area, like if you're studying science or politics or something, you cannot apply to the LLM. It has to be law.
All right, so the last question would be, could you please give some recommendations or advice to the people that are interested to start the application process so they have a better application for the university?
Sure. I think one thing is just to start the process early and don't wait until the last minute, because sometimes it takes longer than you think to finish your essays or to collect the letters of recommendation or your transcripts. So it's better to give yourself enough time. And I think as far as like the essay or the application itself, just try to be careful about it, make it look like you spent some time on it. And we don't expect, for example, people to use absolutely perfect English in their essay, because we know that most people are applying with English as their second language. And sometimes you think like it should be perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just do your very best with the English piece, and make sure you speak to the committee in your own voice. And I think as you start thinking about when to do an LLM, whether to do one, where to do one, you can usually ask the school if they can put you in contact either with a current student or with a graduate and alumnus from your home country. So if you wanted to speak to someone in Colombia who has graduated from the LLM program, our office would be glad to put you in contact with them.
Thank you. We received one more question from Diana. She's asking what's the platform that she has to use to apply.
This lsac.org, they have an online application. I don't really know what system they use, but I think it's very accessible for everyone.
Right. Thank you. Enrique is also asking, I am looking for a master's degree in human rights and international humanitarian law. What programs could you recommend?
Well, we do at Georgetown have a certificate in international human rights law, and we also have one in refugees and humanitarian emergencies. So either one of those certificates can be combined with our International Legal Studies LLM or our general LLM. And so we do have people who come with that focus every year. And basically, we have a Human Rights Institute here. So people with that area of interest usually will contact the Human Rights Institute after they're admitted and ask for some advice on designing their program. So I can recommend Georgetown. I'm not so familiar with other schools. Human rights, I know Notre Dame is very well known for human rights, but I can't tell you any details about their program. I don't know.
Right, and we received one last question from
Sure.
Kaylin. Is there a program related to international business in law?
Yes, we have one called International Business and Economic Law. So that's one of our more popular degrees. And it's pretty flexible, but it allows you to take different approaches to international business law.
And Jesus David is asking, is it common for you to admit like criminalist specialization students to start LLM degree?
Yes, so we have had students whose area of interest is in criminal law, or who have practiced criminal law or worked as prosecutors or things like that in their home country. We don't have a specialization in our LLM on criminal law, but students may take some classes related to US criminal law, evidence, white collar crime, anti-corruption, things like that.
Thank you so much. Well, that will be it. So thank you so much, Karen, for the
It was great to be here.
Thank you. I hope everyone is now ready to start the application process. And the students have your contact information if they need anything. Y bueno, muchas gracias a todos por unirse
Muchas gracias a todos.
por unirse a esta sesión, por participar, por enviarnos sus preguntas. Nuevamente les recuerdo que este es un evento que hace parte de una serie que hemos tenido durante agosto hasta el 31 de agosto, en los que invitamos a diferentes universidades que tienen convenio con Colfuturo para contarnos más acerca de su oferta académica. Pueden ver el calendario en nuestra página web colfuturo.org. También, si tienen dudas respecto al programa Crédito Beca de Colfuturo puntualmente, pueden unirse a nuestras sesiones. Tenemos 2 al mes, el primer viernes de cada mes a las 8 y el segundo sábado de cada mes a las 9:30. Pues ese es el espacio en el que podrán resolver estas dudas. Muchas gracias por haberse conectado y que tengan un feliz resto de día. Thank you, Karen, and have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.